YouTube world and loved ones, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate your clicking the video. Thank you so much. I just wanted to share some information with you, as always, based on my own personal experiences, not telling you what I think, but telling you what I know based on my own personal experiences. I want to discuss the fact that even as you make your way out of a toxic or narcissistic unhealthy relationship, that you're being watched. I hadn't quite made a video on this specific topic as of yet, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to do that. And as always, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychoanalyst, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a doctor. I'm none of those things. I'm just a woman who is sharing with you based on her own personal experience and just giving you my perspective in hopes that it will, kind of help you as you're on your healing journey and making your way out of a toxic and narcissistic situation. But they're always watching. They're always watching. And that became more and more apparent to me, as I was creating that distance for myself, as I was in the gray rock phase and making my way into no contact. It will reveal itself to you that they're watching you. They're watching you from day one, like the day that they notice you and begin to vet you and begin to, kind of test you to see what you'll tolerate, what they can get away with, how far they can push. That's the difficult thing about this type of connection. It's going to seem like you're always playing catch up until you begin to educate yourself, until you start to focus your energy more on yourself and your healing journey and making your way out of the toxic and narcissistic situation. It feels like they're a step ahead of you all the time. And that's because they are, from the perspective that they were always plotting on you. It was never about making a genuine connection with you. It was never about being a friend to you, being a lover, being a partner, being a support system, being a confidant. It was never about earning your trust and then living to maintain that trust. Because to me, those things that I just mentioned are what healthy connections are built on, regardless of the dynamic, trust, reciprocity, effort, care, and just genuine love for someone. So from day one, they were always plotting and they were always planning. But that's okay, because you're here and we're sharing information with one another and we're healing and we're going to continue to move forward together. So as many times as you may need to watch this, save this to a playlist. If you have not had an opportunity to do so, I will link it up somewhere in the video. Check out the Healing and Understanding playlist. A lot of gems there, a lot of great information to help you on your journey. If you have questions, depending on what phase or stage you are in the toxic or narcissistic relationship that you're in, I'm sure you'll find something there that'll be able to help you, as you're on your journey and moving into no contact and staying into no contact. Because as we know, no contact is money, and it always will be. So while you're just moving through life, doing your day to day, looking to be your authentic self and try to make a healthy connection with someone, they're actually plotting on you the whole time. They're watching you. They're watching everything about you, your facial expressions, like how you dress, how you move, how you talk to other people, the music you listen to the type of food you like to eat. Are you fit? Where do you like to work out? Where do you like to shop? Where do you go when you run your errands? How do you drive? What do you drive? They're paying attention to everything that you're doing from day one. And you don't realize that in the beginning, because obviously when you first meet someone, you're both gathering information about one another, right? But for them, it's different. For them, their motivation is different. Their motives are different. So understand that. And as I like to say, in jest, anything that you say or do can and will be used against you like a court of law when you're dealing with a toxic and narcissistic person. And they're going to be prepared to use whatever you tell them, any secrets, anything that you may have confided in them about when you were in a time thinking that this was just someone that you were getting to know and that you were attracted to and that you were growing. Your connection was growing with them. You liked them. You know what I mean? I'm a classic woman. I'm from a stage in life where you could just like somebody. You didn't necessarily need to have a reason. It's just an energy thing. You vibe with them. You enjoy them. You just like them. But not everybody operates that way, from just a pure space of just liking you. And that's what it is that we're dealing with. But like I said, we're here to share information, so we're going to get through it together and use this to make us better moving forward in life. But they're plotting. As far as I'm concerned, the type of person that I am, I'm going to always be aware of the information that I'm sharing. I'm always aware of what is going on around me. I'm aware of who's around me and what I'm saying and who I am in the presence of when I'm speaking. That's just the nature of who I am as a person. But at the same time, you want to be carefree, right? As you're looking to just be your authentic self. You're not looking to pose or put up a facade. You're just looking to be yourself. But in my humble opinion, we should always be mindful of who is around, whether we're at work or whatever. Obviously, when you're in your home, that's a little different. But then when you're in the presence of someone that you are getting to know, you kind of have to go through seasons with people before you really know them or understand what it is that they're about and what their motivation is, what their intentions are for you. Intentions. So anything that you may have shared with them about a friend or a family member, you might come home and vent to them after work, as a lot of us do. You know, you have a mate, you have a partner, you have a wife, you have a husband, you have a boyfriend, you have a girlfriend, whatever the case may be. You come home and you talk about work. This is a safe space, or so you thought. No, your significant other and your home or their home, if you're not cohabitating, should be a safe space over time where you can be yourself and share of yourself. But understand, when you're dealing with a toxic or narcissistic and unhealthy person, they're going to use that information to get you, if at all possible. Anything is up for grabs with them, especially once you come to a point where you begin healing, right? And you're looking to create that distance and you're not making it plain, like you're not verbally warning them of what you're doing, but you're kind of just making moves and you're strategizing, right? And you're making plans, but they're feeling that distance. You become a threat. When they feel that distance, when you begin to plan, when you start to wake up, you know, when you begin hearing the sound of your own voice again, when you're ready to make a move, when you're ready to take your power back, when you're ready to distance yourself from this toxic and negative energy in your life, and you're ready to grow and you're ready to begin your healing journey, and you're looking to move into no contact, even though you're not warning them about that, they can sense it in you. When you've been in a connection with someone, if they pull away from you, you're going to feel that, even if they don't say. If someone pulls away from you, you're going to feel that, even if they never say. So they're aware that it's happening, right? They feel it. And it's going to be frustrating to the toxic and narcissistic person that you're not giving them every detail of your life, that you're not telling them everything that you're doing, that you're not making yourself nearly as available as you once did, right? So now they're going to be focused on you, even though they're probably vetting and entertaining other sources of supply, because they always are. Somewhere along the line, it increases your stock with them. It makes your stock go up, which is so just backwards. But the more you pull away when you're dealing with this person, from a toxic perspective, they begin to look at you different. Now, they're never valuing you, but in their own twisted way, you become more important now because you're pulling away. They're never looking to lose a source of supply ever. All they're looking to do is kind of just set you to the side. You know, they're kind of looking to put you on the bench so they can sub someone else into the game. So just look at it that way. But it's the discard is never final. You know, it's very rare. And as far as they're concerned, even if it's years down the line, they still expect to be able to reach out to you and make contact with you. It's going to be up to you to decide how much access they'll have. But really, it won't be any, because we're moving into no contact. But anything that you've ever shared, you know, coworkers, personal information about your health, information about, you know, your loved ones, struggles that you may be having within your family, any challenges or difficulties that you may be experiencing in life, you share that with this person. Be prepared for them to use it against you in the smear campaign. And that can be daunting to think about, because again, depending where you are, what stage you're in the toxic or narcissistic unhealthy connection that you're in, you're going to be caught off guard by that. But they start the smear campaigns early, and you're not going to know about it until they want you to know about it. Like you're not going to know about it. You're sitting around their friends, you're sitting around their coworkers, their colleagues and family members, and even exes or other sources of supply, because they're definitely triangulating you. But that's another video. for another time. But you're definitely being triangulated even when you don't realize that you are. I'm sure as I sit here, even in this moment, and reflect back on, just different outings, different situations, different get-togethers, I was probably sitting around other sources of supply, or at least one other source of supply, and I didn't realize it. Because who does that? You know what I mean? Who does that? I don't think I've ever deliberately taken advantage of an opportunity to bring, a current partner around an ex of mine. It's just not something that I do. It's not something that I get a kick out of, or it's not something that I get enjoyment from. But again, everything is counterintuitive when you're dealing with a toxic and narcissistic person. So I want to talk about some ways in this video that you can protect yourself, some things that you can put in place, things to take into consideration as you're making moves and you're strategizing and you're planning, putting your exit strategy together so that we can eventually find ourselves in no contact. So stay with me. All right, first and foremost, I want to talk about social media. It's becoming large in part how we interact with one another, how we speak to one another. There was a time I remember, I'm showing my age a little bit, where everybody didn't have a cell phone. I was raised in a time where there was letter writing still. You wrote letters. If you wanted to check on someone, you could go to their house and you knocked on the door. If they didn't answer, you might write a little note, slide it under the door type vibes. I grew up in a time where you called someone at home and the phone rang. And if they weren't there or didn't want to talk, they didn't answer. Maybe they had an answering service. Maybe they didn't. I remember a time where there was no caller ID. So you couldn't even necessarily tell who it was that was calling. So it's been a pleasure to be able to, kind of grow through the generations and see technology change. But with technology, that creates visibility. It creates more access. And sometimes that's not necessarily good, just depending on the type of person that you are and how you like to live your life and how accessible, you want to be to people, how accessible you want your information to be. But social media is how we connect. It's how we stay in contact with friends and loved ones who don't necessarily live in the same city or state as us. Social media is how we network. It's how we find out about employment opportunities. It's how we find out about, just networking overall, financial literacy, shopping, hacks, life hacks, entertainment, whatever. And with all the different platforms available, that gives a toxic or narcissistic person more and more access to you if you're on multiple platforms. Ghost accounts, them pretending to be someone else, them using flying monkeys to be able to monitor your social media, them having people that they know create fake accounts for them, the lengths that they'll go to, So don't even waste too much of your time delving into that, because that's like a rabbit hole in itself. Just the lows that they'll go to, the extent that they will go to accomplish a mission, to be able to spy on you, to give you a hard time, to make your life difficult, to try to control you, to try to manipulate you, to try to make you afraid, make you uncomfortable. It almost seems limitless, like the lengths that they'll go to make life hard for you. But I wouldn't recommend that you necessarily move through your life day to day, second to second, minute to minute, worrying that they're watching you, but always know in the back of your mind that they probably are, and it's a possibility, again, more than likely starting with your social media. When you're in a relationship with someone, you share information. Hopefully this happens kind of over time as you're earning each other's trust, but it's completely natural, as you progress, through the stages of getting to know someone, that you share sensitive information with each other. You may give them your debit card or credit card to make a purchase on your behalf, or you may be making a pickup for them. You share your email information. Sometimes we share our login information, which I never recommend, by the way. And I'm the type of person, for whatever reason, if I have to share my login information with you about something, it's not going to be particularly sensitive, and I'm probably going to go in and change it. But that's just who I am. You know what I mean? This is how I create boundaries and keep myself protected. I'm a woman of principle, and I'm a woman of boundaries, for sure. So this is how I keep myself safe. But I'll also say, being in a toxic or narcissistic relationship, it will teach you those things. It will shape you in that way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it taught me a lot about myself, a lot about better ways that I could protect myself, protect my information, right? Because you never know how someone feels about you in month 6 is not necessarily how they're going to feel in month 18, right? If it even goes that far. So be aware of that. Be mindful. Be aware of the information that you're sharing with this person. Like I said, driver's license information, like people taking pictures and sending their driver's licenses for whatever reason. Again, login information, banking information, the PIN number, to your bank account and ATM machines, things of that nature. That can all come back to haunt you later. Depending on what stage you are in a toxic or narcissistic relationship, if you have not already done so, I highly recommend that you designate a day for yourself if possible. It might be a day off of work or something like that. Maybe the kids are at school. You have an opportunity. You have a few moments to yourself. I would recommend logging into your accounts and making some changes. It's always a good idea to refresh passwords and things of that nature. But I know sometimes we could get in the habit, or we may be in the habit of using the same passwords for everything just because it's easier to remember. But if you've been in a relationship with a toxic and narcissistic person and they have had access to that, they may have access or remember a password or a login, and you wouldn't even think that they noticed or that they would remember, but they do. And sometimes they'll just make a note of it in their phone, or they'll write it down just so they can have access to it later. So I strongly recommend any accounts that you may have shared with them, email, etc., the passwords to your phone, whatever, make sure that you're changing those things, which we should be doing, like I said, anyway, just for our own personal security. I recommend, if they've ever had access to your banking information, debit card information, that you reach out to your financial institutions. Make sure that you get a new card. Just get a new card. It may seem like a bit of an inconvenience now, but it'll come in handy for you later. I was in a situation where I was at a time cohabitating with the most recent toxic or narcissistic person that I was with. So therefore, as I was planning my exit, strategizing and getting myself together, changing addresses and things of that nature, that was just a part of the transition that I had to make. But I would recommend a P.O. box. If you have disposable income and you are okay with getting a P.O. box, even if it's just for a time, you can get a P.O. box 3 months, 6 months. It doesn't necessarily have to be for a lengthy amount of time. I would recommend doing that, just because a P.O. box allows you to kind of separate and disassociate yourself from a toxic and narcissistic person. And it gives you another address that you can use. It gives you another address that you can use with, again, your financial institutions. If you have a car loan, your bank for your car loan and any medical information and things like that. It kind of protects you, and it's safer, for your mail and information to be going to a P.O. box, because it eliminates, kind of a middleman, if you will. It's going directly through the post office and going directly into your box. So again, if that's something that you'd be willing to look into, I would strongly recommend getting a P.O. box for yourself as a step in creating that distance. Even if for whatever reason you're not quite ready to move out of the home yet. Again, all of our situations are different. Some of us have businesses and have bought homes and have children with a toxic or narcissistic person. So just up and leaving is easier said than done. So I empathize with you and I understand completely, but I would strongly recommend you get in the P.O. box and not even telling them about it, and then just going online and submitting your change of address. They won't be tipped off in any way. Eventually, they'll probably notice that you're not getting any mail there, because they were monitoring that. Even when you didn't realize that they were paying attention to your mail, especially if it's one of those situations where everyone in the home has a key. You may go check the mail, they go check the mail, whatever the case may be. So change of address, get yourself a P.O. box. I would recommend that. It's worth it. And again, you can just do it for a few months if that's all that you need. And then you can just terminate it or deactivate the P.O. box, and then do another change of address where you actually live. Just to circle back to social media, any friends that you may have had in common online, it's a part of the healing process and a part of the exit strategy to make a decision as far as any quote unquote like mutual friends that you have. If you, for whatever reason, shared a friend group, it's going to be difficult on you. But I strongly recommend, cutting some ties with some people, at least until you find out what the truth is. You get more information, because like I said, once you're moving into no contact, the smear is going to intensify. And just in people's energy and in people's treatment of you, sometimes you're going to notice that people are going to start to treat you different. People are going to distance themselves from you. And that's because of what the toxic or narcissistic person is probably telling them. Anyone who has a genuine connection with you, anyone who values you as a person, they'll see through it, or they'll at least be in a position where they're ready to give you the opportunity to defend yourself. And if they choose to buy into what the toxic or narcissistic person is saying, you know, without you even having an opportunity to defend yourself or offer your rebuttal, then consider that a gift. Consider them a casualty. And that's just a byproduct of finding your way out of a toxic and narcissistic relationship. You're going to lose some people. I think that comes with life anyway. I can speak from personal experience as I'm aging and growing and elevating in life and finding my own brand of success. Like, people are going to fall off. And it's not even always necessarily a bad thing or that someone did something wrong. It's just you're not on the same frequency. So that's okay. So go through, you know, your social media accounts, whether you're still using Facebook, you have Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever it may be. You need to do an audit. You need to do an audit of any friends that you may have in common, any direct or indirect links to this toxic or narcissistic person or connection. You have to cut it off like a sickness, you know, like a cancer or like a bad disease. You got to cut it off. All right. You got to treat it. Your residence. It's a possibility that you were probably cohabitating. In my situation, that was unacceptable. Home is everything for me. I'm the type of person, it takes a lot for me to be in a place where I'm prepared to live with someone in the first place. But around this time, it was just around the pandemic. So a lot of things in life were uncertain, and it made sense for us to kind of combine homes and share that overhead just to save money. So that was a big motivating factor for me. It was more of a business decision, me deciding to cohabitate with the toxic or narcissistic person that I was dealing with. It wasn't romantic whatsoever. It was definitely more of a business decision, right? And once I made the determination that this isn't for me, I'm going to find my way out. These are some of the steps that I had to put in place. You know, look for a soft spot to land. Hopefully you're in a place where you have friends or you have family members that you trust who would be willing, you know, to rent you out of space. Obviously, you want to be making a valid and a meaningful contribution to whatever household that you're in. But everyone needs help sometimes. Everyone needs help. Everyone needs help. And it's healthy to be in a place where you're willing to ask for help if you need it. So don't hesitate to do that. But you're indefinitely in danger in a sense. Your information is in danger, your peace, your energy, you know, and perhaps even your freedom, because a lot of times they'll look to provoke you, especially if they know you're a high value person. You're a person of quality. You know, you have a good job. You know, you make a reasonable wage, like you're doing really well for yourself. Like they're going to want to ruin that for you. Anything that's going good in your life, when they can't control you or they can't control it, they're going to be looking to sabotage it. So you have to create that space and that distance for yourself just so that you can even rest. I mean, I'm thinking back to times when I was in the home with a toxic and narcissistic person as I was making my way out, and I knew that's what I was doing, even though she didn't necessarily know I knew. I didn't rest as well. You know, I had a lot of late nights, you know, and you kind of find yourself snoozing and napping until you're just so mentally exhausted that you can't help but kind of crash out. But I didn't rest particularly well that last few weeks as I knew I was making my way out. I just didn't. So I'd imagine it's probably the same for you. But, you know, it's a part of the journey, and just use that to motivate you. Use that the next time they try to Hoover, you know, use that the next time they pretend like they want to apologize and that they want to be friends. Use those times to remind you of how dark and how negative it was and how you're doing better now and you would never want to go back, you know, because that's very telling. You're in a home that you share with someone. If you can't even get any quality rest, like you can't even just turn your mind off and recuperate, that's an issue. That's not somewhere where you need to be. So hopefully you'll have, you know, a support system. And fortunately for me, I was able to find that, and I did, and I'm truly grateful. And life has only gotten better ever since. And that's another thing that we're going to touch on in this video as well. You know, you pretty much can only go up from there. as long as, you know, you're willing to do the work and you're ready to take responsibility for the part that you had to play for being there. You know, life will only get better. It can only get better once you disassociate from a toxic person, even just for the fact that you have your freedom and your peace and your solitude. And you don't have to be constantly looking over your shoulder and worrying that you're being plotted on by someone that should care about you and that you once cared about. So, you know, look for that. You know, reach out to a friend or family member that you trust. Sometimes, you know, we've relocated to cities and states that we have no family or friends in or no network in because we were looking to, you know, strengthen this toxic and narcissistic relationship before we realized what it was. And you may have to return back, you know, to your hometown. I would say definitely look to do that, and don't feel like a failure. You know, don't feel like you're backtracking, because it's actually quite the opposite. You know, you're going back to seek refuge, and you're going back to begin your healing journey. You're looking for wilderness. You're looking for consecration, isolation, and separation. So it's never backtracking when you're looking to consecrate yourself. That's how you heal. But you need that distance. You cannot heal, you cannot grow, and you cannot elevate and move forward in the place where sickness is happening, in the place where toxicity is happening. There's no way to do that. You have to find your way out. All right. I want to talk about work. Now, fortunately for me, and this is one of those situations, it was divine. I know it was divine. I could never take full credit for my ability to make it out of the situation that I was in, because the way things just aligned for me, it really is remarkable how everything turned out. I was able to secure a new position. So at the time I was making my exit, I was changing positions. So at the time that I was making my transition, you know, out of the home, you know, with this toxic person, I accepted a new position. So I would no longer be reporting to the same location, because as we were, you know, picking each other up to go to the airport, or, you know, you come get me from work, I'll drive you to the airport, like, you know, things like that. You're making arrangements. We're picking each other up as, you know, we're running errands together, or whatever the case may be. It's common for your partner to know exactly where it is that you work, what door you walk in, where you park your car. It happens sometimes, right? Especially if you, like I said, you are traveling together, you share a car sometimes, they have to drop you off and pick you up, and vice versa, whatever. It's not out of the ordinary for the person that you're seeing to know where you work. But when you're dealing with a toxic or narcissistic person, that's just another liability. So because I was able to secure a new position, not only was I relocating to a new residence and they wouldn't know where I was living, they also wouldn't know where I was working. So that was like a double whammy. That's great. And it kind of happened simultaneously and in one fell swoop, to the point where once I was able to make it out, because I had eliminated and minimize any connections. We did not share a friend group. We did not have friends in common. They wouldn't know where I was working now. They definitely wouldn't know where I was living now. That made it a lot easier for me to create that distance. And because of the nature of the work that she did, it would cause her to have to kind of travel a lot. So I would take advantage of that. That really helped me. And I understand that not everyone's in that situation, but I'm just giving you my perspective in hopes that this information will help you and that you can apply it to your situation. You know, keep the meat and toss the bones, right? And use what you can. So now I'm working at a new job. So she has no idea where I'm working now and where I'm reporting every day. She has no insight into my schedule, because that's another thing that they track. So I, you know, recall a time where I would kind of share my schedule a little bit so that we could make plans. You know, I was working a lot. And I was working 2 jobs at the time. So it was like, it'd be necessary if we were planning outings together, if we were planning a trip, if we had errands, if we needed to sit down and have conversations about things that's going on in the house, we're planning chores, cleaning, whatever the case. Again, it's not uncommon for the person that you're seeing or living with to know what your work schedule is, right? So I would make that very clear. Hey, Monday, I have both. Tuesday, I'm off. Wednesday, I go to this one. Then I go to, you know what I mean? So I deliberately kept my communication to a minimum, but especially as it pertained to my schedule and where I would be and when. And I started doing that even once I was still in the house. I would kind of change things up deliberately. I'm picking up more overtime because, I'm stacking. Again, that was a part of me strategizing and planning, just working more overtime. Because for one, it kept me productive. It kept me out of the house. It kept me busy, but I was also making extra money that I would use, towards, building my new life and finding my way out of the house, So your schedules, that's something to be aware of. Once you make your way into no contact and you're out of the home, you're creating that distance, if at all possible. Even if you're going to be working at the same place, you may not necessarily be in a position yet where you can change roles, but find out how you could possibly change your schedule. But, pull, your leadership team or pull management to the side and find out, if there's a possibility that you could change your schedule, depending on what it is that you do. A lot of times you may have to bid for a shift, or ever so often shifts naturally change anyway, but that would be a good thing. So they can't necessarily pinpoint when exactly it is that you're going to be at work or at the office. Now, I won't pretend like, depending on how low this toxic or narcissistic person is willing to go, I can't say for sure that they're not going to kind of stalk your office. I can't say for sure that they're not necessarily going to send a flying monkey to come see about you, or to try to find out when it is that you're working or when it is that you're not. It's going to be hard to say. I mean, depending on the situation and how long you were together and how closely you associate with your coworkers, they'll befriend your coworkers sometimes just to use that against you, just to smear you with them. As crazy as it may sound, it happens. So that's another way that you could possibly safeguard yourself, by either changing roles, changing employers. But if you're unable to do that, see if you can, make some changes to your schedule so you're a little less predictable and they can anticipate exactly when you and your vehicle are going to be there. Because obviously, just as much as you're in danger, I don't necessarily want to put that energy out into the video, but it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that they could possibly, look to do you harm, or, let the air out of your tires or something like that. Or, hey, stranger things have happened. So protect you, protect your vehicle, protect your children, protect your belongings, and anything connected to you that you value as much as you possibly can. So, we talked about social media and work and things like that. Your family members. I want to talk about your family members. They will use connections with your family members to get insight and information on you. So if, let's say, for instance, you're in a long-term relationship with this toxic person, I'm talking years, you're going to have ties. They're going to have connections to your family members, probably. It just depends, not always, but they may have connections to your family members. They will use that to watch you. Any new endeavors, they want to know what you have going on. They will reach out to these people. They will look to maintain like these empty, shallow relationships that are really meaningless to them. They don't value these people, but they're using them to get insight into you. So don't suffer in silence about it. You don't necessarily need to tell your family all the details and all of your business, because I advise against that. But definitely let them know, like, this isn't someone that I recommend that you be in contact with. I'd imagine, hopefully, that your family will be loyal to you and your safety, especially if there's children involved, and they'll understand. But let them know what's going on, that this isn't someone perhaps that they should continue to associate with, because it's all manipulation anyway. And if they've ever shared any time or space with this person, I'm sure they'd probably agree. That would definitely be highly irregular if you had a family member, especially if it was a parent or close sibling or something like that, and they elected to continue talking to this person, even though they know that you all are broken up and that it wasn't amicable, like it wasn't a good split. So don't suffer in silence. Disassociate yourself from the people that you need to, but when it comes to family, pull them to the side, let them know what the situation is and that they're to avoid this person at all costs. So these are just some things that I recommend as far as finding yourself, in gray rock and then moving into no contact as you're looking for that wilderness and to get out of this toxic and narcissistic situation. But they're always watching, and again, I don't want to spook you about that, because they don't own you and they don't run you. The whole purpose of this is for you to take your power back, and so that you can find your freedom, that you're reconnected to yourself, that you're in alignment with yourself and your creator. We're not fear-based individuals, but there's nothing wrong with being aware. And I believe in having a plan in life. For anything that I look to do, I like to at least have a plan. And I understand that things don't always go according to plan, but I like to go into things with the plan. Be leery of posting in excess on social media, especially once you come to a point where you're healing and you're looking to date again and you're finding yourself in a new relationship. Obviously, I'm never going to tell you what to do with your social media, but I would recommend you're being stringent and being, particular about what it is you post and when you post, and understanding that it's public record. That's how I treat social media. Once you put something out on social sites, you don't necessarily own it the same anymore. Some of these, social media sites allow you to save photos and take screenshots and all that stuff. So once you're uploading photos, you're uploading text, you're making reels, you're giving insight into yourself, you're creating shorts, like you're allowing your voice to be heard, allowing yourself to be seen. You're putting yourself out there in the world. And a lot of times, again, toxic and narcissistic people have minions. Like toxic and narcissistic people have flying monkeys. They have reporters. They have plants. So it could be someone that they know that comes across a piece of content or a post that you put up, and they'll, report it back. They'll send them a link and say, hey, so-and-so just put this up. That's their job as a flying monkey, to report. So that's what they're going to do. So just keep that in mind. Nothing is, secret. Once you put it out on social media, it's basically public record. Anybody can see it. And if you're cool with that, then it's all good, because I'm definitely saying live your life. I'm definitely not telling you to go into hiding. I'm definitely not encouraging you to be a hermit. I just want you to kind of keep in mind that they're always watching, because the thing about toxic and narcissistic people, unhealthy people, they feel like they own us. They feel like they always have rights to us. So even once it's done, once you've had any type of connection with you, they feel like they always own you. They feel like they should always be able to have access to you. They should always be able to know what you're doing. And sometimes they're using that information to frustrate, to devalue, and to do harm to the new supply. Sometimes they're using that information that they're getting on you to harm the new supply, to devalue them. Oh, yes. And that's another reason why your value goes up, because they'll begin arguing and bickering with the new supply about you, because the new supply is noticing that, or even the other sources of supply, they're noticing that you're investing so much of your time and energy into watching someone who you're no longer like in a relationship with. It's like, why are you still watching them? Why are you stalking their page? Why are you on the phone with your flying monkeys or your so-called friends talking about this person? I thought it was over. Like, why are you doing that? So that's going to create a source of contention for whatever other connections that they're in. But that, again, that's just a byproduct. It's not the goal. You're not looking to deliberately help them in devaluing other sources of supply. But that's what it does when you continue to live your life and you don't interact. And they're seeing you on social media. They're seeing you happy. They're seeing you get their new job. They're seeing you buy that house. They're seeing you in a healthy, happy relationship. They're seeing you and your children, if you have them, like moving on and moving forward in life. And that's never going to be a good feeling for them. But keep in mind, man, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the information that you're sharing and how it can be used, and what the toxic and narcissistic person may be willing to do with it once they no longer have you in their clutches, because you become a threat. You definitely become a threat to them once they can no longer control you. And that's how they see you. And that's why they're in the punishment business, is what I call it. And they'll begin to look to make life and your existence and your presence, difficult. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, as always, drop it down in the comment section. Make sure that you drop a like, and I definitely do appreciate you. Definitely going to keep the content coming. I've changed locations, so definitely some life changes for me going on, but all good life changes, elevation, and just progress and forward movement. So I'm excited about that. Excited to be back in front of the camera and sharing information with you all. Reach out to me, shoot me an email, askbizlifestyle@gmail.com. Again, hit the comment section, share the video, like the video, save the video. If you have not, definitely check out my healing and understanding playlist. And as always, I believe in you sincerely. I believe in you. Make sure that you're doing the same thing. If there's anything in particular that you want to see, let me know. You know, let me know down in the comment section you have any recommendations. Definitely do share those. I definitely see it. I definitely read and always look to reply to the comments. So if there's a particular video that you want to see, let me know and I'll take the time out and I'll make that video for you. And I thank you so much for being supportive. I thank you for being patient. I thank you for being understanding. And I appreciate you. And I'm here to stay. All right. And I value you. And until we meet again, we out.